Hi everyone, for today's strategy show and tell, we're going to be going through the apprenticeship journey and the process which we took in updating the API playbook. My name is Humera Mullah. I'm a software developer apprentice. I started off back in 2018 for a level 4 qualification apprenticeship, and now I'm working towards a bachelor's degree apprenticeship.
Hi everyone, my name is Livia Basiu and I'm a software developer apprentice since last year in October.
Hi everyone, my name is Atia and I'm also a level 4 software developer apprentice and I started in September last year.
So over the 3 years of my apprenticeship, I've been on quite a few different projects. So I started off with eForms, which is where we were building a legacy system for HR forms. And this was quite interesting because it allowed me to start off with the world of coding through understanding the different front end and back end services that we use. So I was able to view some of the code that previous developers have done and then add more functionalities that the HR team wanted me to add. I then moved on to the Platform API project, which is where we're building platform APIs for legacy systems. You must be wondering, what is a platform API? So a platform API is where we build generic APIs to meet generic user needs. So for example, you can have an address API which retrieves addresses from local London Borough of Hackney and also outside of London Borough of Hackney. And the aim of the platform API is that address API can now be used in lots of different services. So for example, the housing department can use the addresses API to retrieve addresses, or another department can also be using the addresses API to retrieve addresses. And this project was quite interesting as it allowed me to start implementing the API playbook standards, and I was also able to pair program with colleagues from an external organization, which gradually allowed me to help build APIs independently. I then moved on to the electoral PLC project, which is where I was completing both the front end and the back end services for electoral officers to complete the register to vote form. So I was doing both the front end and the back end service, and this was quite interesting as it allowed me to explore new AWS services, which I was then able to share with the development team. I was also able to understand on how the front end and the back end integrates together. So it was quite interesting as it allowed me to understand on how the front end application talks to the back end application. So what the front end application does is it completes the form, asks the user to complete the form, and then the backend application saves that form to an AWS S3, which is our database. I then moved on to the tenants and leaseholders project, which is my current project. And this is where we're building a backend service for Hackney housing officers to meet tenants and leaseholder needs. So this was quite interesting as it allowed me to explore new technologies so that we can improve the current API playbook. I was also able to start building platform APIs. So for example, where we've built a person API which retrieves resident details, and we're hoping that in the near future that the person API can be used in other projects as well. So for example, the finance workstream or the repairs hub workstream could possibly use the person API. Part of my role within this project is to also help support a new apprentice who has recently joined the team. So I'm pair programming with her so that we can both, I can give her an understanding on the different tasks which we complete and why we complete it. So I've done a spider chart diagram on the different AWS services that I've been experienced on, and how confident I feel on the different services. So as you can see, I'm not so confident with AWS code build. So I've learned the general theory about AWS code build, and I know that it's an automated pipeline that AWS provides, but I haven't had a chance to sort of have experience on that on any of my current projects. So I'm hoping that in the near future, I could possibly use AWS code build so that I can be more confident with it. However, I'm quite confident on Amazon CloudWatch, which is what we use at HackIT to view our logs when there's an issue with APIs. So if there is a sort of issue with one of the APIs, if there is a failing error with one of the APIs, then I can go into Amazon CloudWatch, view the logs, and I'm confidently able to understand the type or exactly which functionality is failing, which is quite interesting because then I'm able to use that knowledge to then go in and resolve the issue of the API as soon as possible. I've done a similar spider chart diagram for the different frameworks and languages that I have experienced on. So, for example, I'm not so confident with NuGet package, which is something which we've started to look into within my current tenants and leaseholders project. And what NuGet package is it's where we are looking to store some common codes for our API so that other services can also use the codes. So we're sort of still exploring the sort of features and functionalities that we can add to the NuGet package and how we can make the NuGet package reusable and easy for other developers within HackIT to use as well. And then I'm really confident with Circle CI, which is an automated pipeline that we use at HackIT to run through our commands and deploy our new functionalities and features to the different environments. I'm really confident with that, as recently for my current project, I've been able to create an automated pipeline from scratch for our front-end developers, which was quite interesting as it allowed me to understand the different commands that I would need to add and also some of the security issues. So we need to make sure that we don't hard code any of the database credentials or any of the API keys. So once my apprenticeship finishes, what would I like to do? So I would like to learn on how to consume an API. And when I say this, I mean on how we can use the different platform APIs that we offer to meet different user need requirements. So for example, with the addresses API that I mentioned earlier, how can we use that address API to add new functionalities and consume the address API as well as other functionalities and features to be added to the address API? I think that would be quite an interesting topic for me to look into. I would also like to encourage more people to do an apprenticeship at HackIT, because I feel as though working within HackIT for the past couple of years has given me a large amount of experience. I've been able to get qualified with a foundation degree, and I'm hoping in the future that I'll be qualified with a bachelor's degree. And I couldn't do this without the HackIT team. They were really supportive. They were able to help me to understand the different processes that I should take, and they were able to guide me throughout for every step of the way. I would also like to gain an AWS certification. So I've mentioned that I have lots of experience on some of the AWS services, and I would like to get a qualification so that I can prove some of the experience that I have. But also I want to possibly through this AWS certification, I can learn some new AWS services and possibly share that with the HackIT development team and apply that to future projects. I'll now pass on to Atia, who will speak about the API Playbook.
Thanks, Amira. So yeah, like she said, I'm going to be talking about the API Playbook. Now you might be wondering what that actually is. In short, it's a guide to creating APIs using our standards and best practices at HackIT for our HackIT services. But why do we need this? Next slide, please. Well, there's several reasons why we consider using an API Playbook. One of them is that the Playbook has been an essential part of HackIT's digital transformation, moving towards cloud-based architecture. It's as we've evolved, the Playbook has been documenting our progress over time and our practices as they have evolved over time. Additionally, it helps promote the values that we love, such as reusability and flexibility. It gives guidance towards our architecture that we have with the platform APIs and the service APIs that Homera talked about. So platform APIs are reusable and service APIs are just for a specific service. And outlining that clearly and outlining the use cases where you might choose to do a platform API as opposed to a service API, those are all things that are considered within the Playbook. And then it promotes those ideas of reusability and flexibility because you're following the guidance of the playbook. Additionally, it creates standards that we need to keep up to scratch so that all of our playbooks have a certain standard of reusability, flexibility, and also just quality, so that they can actually be used for our HackIT services with confidence. It also promotes the ideas of consistency and governance. We have a base API template that it guides you through how to use. The base API template is a boilerplate code that we use for all of our APIs at HackIT. It gives guidelines of what the folders are, how to use them, etc. Like really great tutorials and stuff like that. And long term, this means that by having the same boilerplate code for every single API, they're easier to maintain in the long run. Lastly, it's also really great for onboarding new developers, whether that be new staff like me 6 months ago, or agency partners that we're working with. It's an in-depth guide to building APIs, and so the goal is that anyone reading through it should be able to understand how to create an API after they've finished it. So that's a bit of background on what the playbook is, why we have it, etc. And now I'm going to talk about the changes in our newest release. So what have we done? Firstly, we created our brand new and improved playbook website. Before, it was just hosted on GitHub, which was okay, like it did the job, but it was hard to navigate, and we were constrained by GitHub's look and feel and structure, which wasn't always helpful. We thought a lot about the user needs of the developers that might be onboarded or agency partners that we're working with, and took that into consideration when thinking about the improvements that we wanted to make. We also tried to get a lot of feedback about the current playbook and how we could improve it, which you can see on the next slide. Next slide, please. So some of the feedback, the ways that we received feedback were by peer reviewing all of our content. When we wrote new content for the playbook, we made sure to run it by someone like maybe one of the apprentices or one of our seniors to make sure that it actually had the correct information and that it was easy to read and understand as a beginner. We also had a feedback workshop, you can see it on the right, where we had like kind of a retro style of ideas about how the people that are outside of their team felt about the playbook. And we received a lot of great feedback from that, such as add a search bar to make it easier to navigate, add clickable code snippets rather than screenshots, and provide easier ways to add feedback and comments. We took all of that into consideration, trying to implement as many suggestions as possible in our new site. Additionally, we also, like I said, created new content and updated all of our old content. As the playbook is something that evolves over time with us, we needed to update any processes that might have changed, or show any new technologies that we're kind of playing with and seeing what comes out of it, essentially. We also created video tutorials for visual learners. So we created a YouTube channel, you can see it on the left, where we had short, bite-sized, 5-minute or less videos that contained content about most of the main topics, and then embedded them into our playbook site, our new playbook site. And so the idea with those is that if you watch them all in a playlist in a row, then you should understand all of the main steps in creating an API. And lastly, we also created one site to centralize all of our playbooks and resources for our developers. That's on the next slide. So we created a whole new URL called playbook.hackney.gov.uk. You might have seen this already, but the URL is great. Rather than having some sort of GitHub link, which is, you might not understand what that is in the first place, having a link by itself makes it easy to understand what it actually is, and it's a great, easy to remember resource. We had on this site, we have links to various resources split into different categories based on the teams that have contributed to it. So you can see front-end development, back-end development, that's where our API playbook link was. We also created some great logos courtesy of Livia, and we made it mobile responsive so that any person with any device should be able to access it. So now I'm just going to quickly show you what it used to look like and what it does look like. Yeah, so here's a video of what it used to look like. So it was just one long GitHub page, which wasn't terrible. You had links to all of the different headings, so a contents table and all of that. But it's a bit hard to understand, and if you want to add new content as a developer adding new content, it will be very difficult to do so because it's a really long file. Additionally, you have extra links, like I saw there, external links. So as a user, like someone like me or an external partner, you might be confused about all of these different links that go into all of these various different places. It's quite confusing and hard to navigate. So overall, not a great solution. So move on to our new version, which shows how we implemented those changes. So yeah, like I said, you can access it through the HackIT development system. And yeah, you can see just subjectively, this is a much easier to understand, much more visually pleasing format. And yeah, you can see over there on the sidebar. On the side, we had a sidebar to navigate through anything that we wanted, and we have a search button too, in case you want to search for one specific topic. We also have videos embedded and also code embedded in case you want some snippets and stuff like that. I'm now going to pass it to Olivia to talk about how we achieved all of this.
Thank you, Tia. So basically in this process, we managed to practice both our soft and technical skills. To start with our soft skills, we learn how to work under pressure, how to communicate with other team members. We learned how to ask for help when needed. We developed our creativity and we collaborated with the whole team from senior developers to apprentices. And we learned how to organize collaborative work. In terms of technical skills, we gained a better understanding of our organization approach to structuring and building APIs. We learned how to make short but detailed video content. And once created, we tested the videos with some of the new apprentices just to ensure that the video meets our goals. We understand better GitHub and its commands now. We also had an intro to Docosaurus, which is an optimized site generator in React, which helps you build a beautiful documentation in no time. So it's quite easy. If you're trying to make a new website, you can just have a look at it. It's quite useful. We also used GitHub Actions to automate, customize, and execute our software development workflows right in our own repos. We use basic HTML and CSS. We learn how to create mobile responsive websites and how to work in an agile way by awaiting feedback and willing to make changes at all times. Next slide, please. So in terms of actions, we started with creating a variety of markdown files, adding content in a clear, precise, and attractive way for readers just to make sure it's engaging. We designed logos for each landing page. We designed the landing pages in line with the organization standards and requirements using HTML and CSS. We asked for advice from experienced front-end developers when needed. We also created and amended the structure of the API playbook on a regular basis. We created a drop-down menu. We added new content, and we learned how to raise and approve PRs on GitHub and how to use GitHub Actions. In terms of the outcomes, we managed to keep the interface simple. We dragged attention to key features by being purposeful in page layouts. We strategically used colors and text as per the organization branding requirements. Typography has also been used to create clarity and hierarchy. We maintain brand consistency by making buttons and other common elements use the same. And we also used proper alignment. Next slide, please. In regards to the impact of the API playbook, the most important thing is that it brings consistency and best practices across all APIs developed by internal and external developers for all relevant services that we have. It also helps us to achieve governance, is driving improvement and efficiency across the council, and it's an easy way to learn the Hackney way of building APIs for both new developers and for external agencies. Next slide, please. Some of the main challenges that we faced are the following. First was meeting tight deadlines. Second was fixing bugs and being front-end beginners. Handling feedback and requests was also very challenging. We also made sure that the content is secure. And balancing work on the playbook with project work and exams, we must admit that it was, again, quite challenging, but we did manage to do it, and it felt very rewarding at the end of the day. And we would like to thank you to our senior managers for providing guidance and leading the project all the way, and to the whole development team for making videos, writing new content, and providing feedback at all times. It wouldn't have been possible to make it without them. And probably you wonder what's next now? As technology changes and we learn new things, most likely our playbook will continue to evolve. So please have a look at our official website. We are always happy to receive feedback to make this even better. Thank you very much for listening. And do you have any questions at all?